SMU transfer quarterback Tanner Mordecai threw 3 touchdown passes to push his nation-leading total to 29, ran for another score, and number 21 SMU dominated the opening half in a 55-26 victory over Tulane on Thursday night. Mustangs are a victory away from their second 8-0 start in the past 3 seasons as they get ready to play 3 of the next 4 games on the road in a stretch that ends with a trip to number 2 Cincinnati. For more on Mordecai and some other college names that should be garnering some attention, let's bring in CBS Sports HQ NFL draft guru Ryan Wilson. Ryan, good to see you. We have to start with Mordecai here, the former Oklahoma quarterback. I mean, he got beat up by Kyler Murray, then got beat up by Jalen Hurts, then Spencer Rattler gets the nod over him. But here he is, shining brightly at SMU. What is this season doing for his draft stock?
First things first, Jeremy, where's your birthday hat? Happy birthday, my man. I just found out that I'm going to say you turned 29. Way to go there, brother. You're looking great, but not as good as Tanner Mordecai, who balled out last night. Again, I mean, SMU's undefeated. They're ranked in the top 25. They're playing at a high level. This follows a year after Shane Buechele was lighting up the scoreboard for SMU. He is now on the practice squad in Kansas City. So this feels like a path to the NFL. Also helping, this is not a great draft class. You mentioned some of the names, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray. Those guys were first and second round picks. Spencer Rattler has just been benched at Oklahoma. Mordecai could not beat out Rattler, so he transferred. And oh, by the way, guess who the quarterback's coach is at SMU? Lincoln Riley's brother. So there's some connections there. He went to SMU. He's playing at an incredibly high level. He threw 7 touchdowns in the opener against Abilene Christian. You mentioned the touchdowns and the stats from last night's game. He has a chance to find his name in the conversation on day 3 as we sit here, and that's a great place to be given that you were on the bench the last 3 years at Oklahoma. So that was a fun game to watch, a fun story to keep an eye on as you go through this draft process where, as I mentioned, Jeremy, not a lot of quarterbacks are going to hear their names called in the first round.
427 yards last night, a career high 300 of which he had before halftime. So he is having a heck of a season with the Mustangs. All right, your latest first-round mock draft available over on CBSSports.com. It is must-read stuff. And we want to highlight a few players here, starting with Purdue defensive end George Karlaftis. He is their leading edge man, 18 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles here in 2021. Where do you see him landing?
He is a top 15 pick type area guy in terms of as we sit here in the middle of October. But again, he's coming off a huge game last week against Iowa. Purdue beat Iowa, who was obviously ranked at the time in making their move. And Karlaftis had a lot to do with that. He was trouble up front, coming off the edge consistently. He is not quick twitch. He's not going to be confused for Kayvon Thibodeau, but he does a lot of things well consistently, and that's what you want off the edge. He can set the edge against the run. He can guarantee he gets into the backfield. He's disruptive against both the pass and the run game. And he didn't do a lot last year, part because of COVID, part because of injuries. The year before that, 2019, he was unstoppable. And we're seeing glimpses of that this year, most recently last Saturday against Iowa. And I suspect that will continue as we move closer to the draft, Jeremy.
Speaking about good against Iowa, let's stick with Purdue and Karlaftis' teammate, wide receiver David Bell. He's already surpassed his yardage total from 2020 on 15 less receptions. He's only had 1 game with less than 120 yards receiving, and he's averaging 17.9 yards per reception. He's not in your latest round 1 mock here, Ryan, but how close is he to making it in there?
Yeah, you're talking about all these stats, and they jump off the screen. You see the 11 catches, 240 right there on the screen. And you mentioned 4 of the 5 games he's gone over 100 yards. You mentioned the 70.9 yards per catch. Prior to that, the previous 2 years, he never averaged more than 12 yards per catch. And the game against Iowa was an eye-opener because he is running past guys. He is getting balls on short throws and then doing the heavy lifting with the yards after the catch. And I think it just reiterates, Jeremy, what we've seen the last few years, that these wide receiver groups are getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Jameson Williams is another guy out of Alabama. He had a transfer from Ohio State, and now his name is in the first-round mix as well. But David Bell is balling out, and he has a lot to do with why that offense is clicking. And we'll continue to watch him, and he'll continue to move up draft boards. I would imagine he's worked his way into day 2 right now. We'll find all this out as we get all these names together. But again, a fun story to watch midway through the college season.
Moving away from Purdue, but staying in Indiana, one guy who is in the round 1 mock and in the top 2 picks, Notre Dame safety Kyle Hamilton. You have him landing with the Lions. He leads the Irish, 3 interceptions, has 32 tackles alongside of that. What's the case for Hamilton at number 2?
Here's how I describe him, like the elevator pitch, if you will. He's 6'4", 220, and he's a version of Ed Reed. He's not Ed Reed. No one's Ed Reed. But he is a ball hawk in the middle of that defense. He's a sideline-to-sideline guy. He is a freakish athlete. Those 2 interceptions he had in Florida State versus Florida State in the opener, that's what I always come back to. And he's played at a high level for a long time. He's been a team leader on this squad since his freshman year. And there's not a lot not to like about Kyle Hamilton. He's going to be a top 10 pick. I feel like top 5 feels more accurate. He does everything well. And in a draft, again, with no quarterbacks, there are going to be a lot of defensive players going early in that top 10 range, Jeremy. And Kyle Hamilton will be one of the first players off the board, either offense or defense.
He is CBS Sports NFL draft expert Ryan Wilson. Latest mock draft up for your viewing pleasure over on CBSSports.com. Love you, Ryan. Good to see you, buddy. For more from Ryan, be sure to check out the Pick Six podcast. The latest episode dropped after last night's Thursday night football game. Ryan, John Breach, host Will Brinson, breaking down everything that happened in that game. Download and follow wherever you get your preferred podcasts.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.